Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammang sangham namasami. Today we're going to discuss two poems from the Sutta Nipāta, which are related to old age and death, grieving, sorrow, and lamentation. It's not because I'm into sorrow and lamentation right now. I'm feeling quite cheerful. But we're coming to the summation of the Buddha's contemplation of dependent origination. And that is one end of the spectrum of dependent origination. It goes from beginning with ignorance and concludes with dukkha in the traditional format. Microphone? I think the people in the background they won't hear well. That cannot hear? I propose that we take a pause for a minute and bring all of these great large chairs right up here onto the stage so you can come close to me sitting in the comfort and ease of your chairs. Okay, here we go. Here's the Sala Sutta called the Dart. Is number 3.8 in the Sutta Nipāta. And this time, instead of giving you all the link to the version in the Sutta Central, I'll give you the version in readingfaithfully.org. And I did this because if you haven't come across them, it's a very lovable site, which is managed by my first and best slightly older Dhamma brother, Bhante Piyananda, Bhante, that was Bhante Kema. He mentioned to me that he has completed his study where he's just a couple of years older than me in monastic form. He has studied and translated all of the suttas and the Dipitaka. as his personal project. So here it is. Unforeseen and unknown is the extent of this mortal life, hard and short and bound to pain. That would be the beginning of the Bodhisattva's quest as a young man when he saw the characteristic figures of the elderly person, the sick person, and the dead person, and a monk. It is indeed for the typical person the biggest crisis of life, and the most important moment of life is the moment when we face our death, or the most important, crucial, or the biggest crisis in our connection with those that we love, whether it be our parents, our children, or any dear one, the moment that we're separated by death. This has been the mystery, the worry, what human beings have pondered on since forever. How can we possibly reconcile ourselves with death? Even not just 2,000 years ago, as we see with the Buddha, we see 5, 6, 7, I don't know how many years ago, 10,000 years ago, the earliest remains of the earliest of the human species. We see that the bones of their deceased were preserved in a very intentional way. So there must have been some kind of deep reflection about death, the death of loved ones, from the beginning, for as long as we've been human. There is no way that those born will not die. On reaching old age, death follows. Such is the nature of living creatures. So that was the Bodhisattva's contemplation when he tried to say, where does death come from? What's the condition for death? It is birth. Whatever is born must come to die. So this poem is really pointing to the same wisdom of what the Bodhisattva discovered when he was pondering about the answer to old age and death. As ripe fruit are always in danger of falling, so mortals, once born, are always in danger of death. Now, what does that metaphor of the ripe fruit remind you about, except the cycle of nature? When you have an agriculture society and their religious ideas are informed by the way they see that in the winter the crops die, and in the spring they come back. And this is the what's nurturing of life, is this whole mystery of the birth and death in this agricultural cycle. So you have the God figures, like Jesus, who died for our sins, and who subsequently are reborn and come back. So that's like the miracle of birth and death. And it could be one could develop a view like that says that going around and around and being born and dying and born and dying and born and dying is what God wants for us to do, and make that into your religion and see if you can find your salvation in that. And yet even persons who have that kind of a belief system that are not satisfied to be born and die and born and die. They're looking for something permanent. They want something eternal. They want to escape from this. And so the Bodhisattva, with his integrity and his determination, said this being born and dying is not the whole answer. There's got to be something beyond that, right? So that's what this verse is pointing to. Then he said, as clay pots made by a potter all end up being broken, so is the life of mortals. Okay, what does a clay pot make you think of? Does anybody have an answer? Can you say it in Pali? What a clay pot reminds you of? What do you?
The ego.
Ego, yes. I was thinking of a sankhara, something that's fabricated, something that you make. So the ego is something that you make. But when they talk about sankhara, it's pictured on the Tibetan image of the Wheel of Dhamma. It's portrayed by a potter who's fabricating pots. And that's the karma that you make, which determines your next life, what existence you will come into. And here is the Buddha's insight here, that whatever is made will break up. Nothing, even what do we make with our sankharas? We make concepts, right? Even a concept like the square root of 4 will disappear when human race disappears. That concept of the square root will disappear. Even the Dhamma, the Buddha said, it's like a raft. You hold on to it until you get to the other side, but then don't hold it. Even the Dhamma is impermanent in the sense that the Dhamma will be forgotten.
Do you have a comment? I'm just thinking of that play, that Basil.
Yes.
Becoming something.
Right. Yes, like becoming. Mm-hmm. Young and old, foolish and wise, all go under the sway of death. All are destined to die. So there's not a refuge that you can find that will protect you from dying. Even the Arhat will experience the death at the end of this lifespan, so that the living body will come to its end. See how, while relatives look on, wailing profusely, mortals are led away one by one like a cow to the slaughter. And so the world is stricken by old age and by death. I think we know that there are two ways to contemplate about death awareness. One is to think of our own inevitable death, to infer just how we've seen others die, so that most intelligent people are aware that there is such a thing as death. Even children, if they might see their pet might die or their relative might die. So most people know what death is from others, and you can infer that your own death is coming. All of the things that you are hanging on to, all of your possessions, your reputation, your loved ones, and so on. You know that when death comes, you'll be separated from every single one of them. So none of them will be your refuge afterwards. And the Buddha said, that is why the wise do not grieve, for they understand the way of the world. For one whose path you do not know, not whence they came and where they went, you lament in vain, seeing neither end. If a bewildered person lamenting and self-harming could extract any good from that, then those who see clearly would do the same. So with knowledge, that's our avijja. That's the other end of the spectrum of dependent arising. Is the way to come out of grieving because of that which is true everywhere and always for all beings. But those who are overtaken by delusion or who are confused and who don't know, if you don't know the way out, then indeed there is a lot of dukkha there. A lot of harm comes from trying without knowing the way. Not by weeping and wailing will you find peace of heart. It just gives rise to more suffering and distresses your body. Growing thin and pale, you hurt yourself. It does nothing to help the dead. Your lamentation is in vain. Unless a person gives up grief, they fall into suffering all the more, bewailing those whose time has come. You fall under the sway of grief. See to other folks departing to fare after their deeds, fallen under the sway of death. Beings flounder while still here. For whatever you imagine it is, it turns out to be something else. Such is separation. See the way of the world. I'm taking a pause here because I want you to advise me how a monk or a wise Buddhist can tell a person who's in grief that all you're weeping and wailing, you're just hurting yourself and not helping in anything. Because we know that grieving is part of a natural process. It seems to be somewhat built in to human psychology, at least to the extent that a person has created their own self-identity as being one who has a connection to these other loved ones. If there is that attachment to the loved ones, and then our loved ones die, then it is like a wound, just as sure as you had your arm cut off or your foot cut off, that wound would be painful. So I'm going to actually invite comments. How to speak to yourself and to speak to others when grief really does arise. Knowing that grieving is not, wailing and lamenting is not praised by the Buddha.
I remember
Would you be kind enough to talk to the microphone?
I remember when my father and my brother passed away within about 18 months. So I was grieving. So I was going to my meditation teacher and coming to Dhamma, and everybody's advice is showing loving kindness to myself. So, and at the beginning, I couldn't feel anything, just numb, trying to do loving kindness to myself. So then I came to visit. At that time, Dhamma still was in Fremont. So Ayya Sobhana was the only one that was there. I went to visit, and then so I told her I couldn't feel anything. So then she said, "You just have to practicing, just practice until you're filled with loving kindness, so you can spill it to other people." It was so beautiful and so inspiring. And that helped me a lot.
Thank you.
Happens that this body event, time, space coordinates that goes through time and space, me, has experienced a lot of grief. And when I don't allow it to flow through me, when I am suppressing it or holding on to it, then I'll get sick. It'll lodge in my lungs, it'll lodge in my throat, and I'll get bronchitis, get stuck. The saving grace for me throughout my whole life has been the practices. And from the practices, I've been able to find equanimity in being with the biochemical processes as they work their way through me. And what is left behind is peace and clarity and insight.
Nyada.
Thank you so much, Venerable. For me, the way I try to make myself understand clearly what is so-called me is not me. It's just the thing that become a human, one human, that self-thought and protect this self, so-called body, or something else that surround you, so-called family, and you caught up that family is mine, belong to me, because I have seen this person since little until grow up. So that bond, it kind of like, it comes from the sense of feeling. But if you study Buddha teaching, you will understand. You hear temporary, and you will be gone, and then you come back again, temporary, and then you will be gone, over and over and over again. So the best thing of time of temporary, you be here, you need to kind of like build up the good path to go and get out or escape from that, may I call more like a circle of black hole, to have a powerful suck you into the circle of be born and dead, be born and dead. So the secret is you just relax and don't be afraid of that. You just make your heart cheerful, stay strong in practice, in the good deed, whatever so-called good deed, you did that, and you eliminate so-called bad, and you'll be fine. You will have a peaceful mind. Whatever you go, whatever you face, whatever the problem come to you, you will start to be a cool head person because
Okay.
you have let go. Thank you so much.
Thank you. There's a question about what was the question? The question is the way that the Buddha, in many sutras, points to grief being futile, useless, and even harmful. Whereas in the West, we've sort of learned that grieving is a normal and necessary part of a healthy process when there's a loss or a separation. How we put those two things together, and especially don't insult somebody who's in the midst of a difficult grieving process where they really are in a lot of pain. And don't insult ourselves if we happen to experience a loss and fall into this way of grief and be in a lot of severe pain and be psychologically unstable because of some loss. I really love Venerable Nyada's comment because I remember very much the Buddha's teaching that dukkha should be fully understood, and so pain and sorrow from loss should be fully understood. It may be understood in terms of impermanence, or may be understood in terms of non-self, may be understood in terms of the way that dukkha arises from attachment, and whatever the lens or the aspect of the Dhamma that gives us a way of understanding what we're experiencing, that's the way to come out of it. So in the sutta we were reading, where the Buddha said everyone must die, whether intelligent or not, whether eligible, whether young or old, foolish or wise, we all must die. So just contemplating how universal it is a way of putting our own experience into perspective, and not just being in denial like it's some kind of a cosmic accident. Why is this sorrow happening to me? Why did I get singled out to have my relative die? Life is so unfair because I'm experiencing this loss. So those kind of silly thoughts can be dispelled when we contemplate externally, knowing how universal it is. I'll call in Sheila, and then after Sheila, we'll go back to the sutta.
Thank you, Ayya, and good afternoon. What comes up for me is that if we don't address the human aspect of grief, mourning, sorrow, lamentation with regard to death, then it will be very difficult to practice, from my perspective, a life that includes and is based on and framed on the Eightfold Path, because not addressing those natural feelings could lead one to act, as you said, in irrational or unmindful, unthoughtful ways. So while from a Dhammic perspective, there's that awareness, and I recite the 5 remembrances every single day, sometimes multiple times a day. And I think that's what actually helped me recently with finding out that my father had passed. I really think the 5 remembrances really grounded me. But I also know that if I didn't have that, it is possible, and I've seen other people just spin out and in a way that can be detrimental. And that reminds me of the Eightfold Path and the precepts, not being able to hold precepts. And hopefully being able to get back out of that, but why descend into that in the first place? Thank you.
Very good. Thank you much. We said also for the role of sila in the way I've been really blessed. I had the wonderful gift before I got fully involved in the monastic path of being present live and in person for the passing away of several different individuals. And what I observed is when there was an unfinished business, some ill will or some quarrel that was left unresolved and swept under the rug, then the relatives could really suffer tremendously because their loss of the parting is compounded with remorse. And then those people who had a kind of clarity beforehand and who took care as part of their preparations, besides doing their last will and testament, they also took care of anything that was broken or needed to be mended in their relationships. And it was like really beneficial towards having a peaceful death and for the loved ones afterwards to be peaceful. Even if it's not possible, if there is some strong disappointment or something that was really unwise and bad in a relationship after the person passes away, there are reflections that can be done to actively and intentionally acknowledge that pain of whatever was broken about the relationship and to forgive oneself and to forgive the other, even if you didn't necessarily have time to take care of it within their lifetime. And these are intelligent and practical ways to dispel grief. Now I'm going to come back to the sutta. Even if a human lives 100 years or more, they are parted from their family circle. They leave this life behind. Therefore, having learned from the perfected one, dispel lamentation. Seeing the dead and departed, think, I cannot escape this. As one would extinguish a blazing refuge with water, so too a sage, a wise, astute, and skilled person would swiftly blow away grief. blow away grief that comes up like the wind, a tuft of cotton. One who seeks their own happiness would pluck the dart from themselves, the wailing and moaning, the sadness inside, with the dart plucked out, unattached, having found peace of mind, overcoming all sorrow. One is sorrowless and extinguished. So then, the practice here upon seeing the death of another is to make this into the opportunity to overcome the delusion of about one's own existence. Seeing the dead and departed, think, I cannot escape this. It's amazing how, even though objectively, rationally, we know that we're going to die, but so many people, even though they know it rationally, if some danger comes up or something surprises them, all of a sudden it may experience fear and anxiety because they were not, not that they thought they'd got rid of that delusion, but they still have that delusion. I'm leaving California and going to a new place. So then I happened to see something about how old people come to be senile and demented, and all the horrible things that happen to them because nobody wants to take care of them when they're demented, and they become horrible, and they get put into a nursing home, and they're abused by the nurses, and their relatives can't stand to be around them, and they're overwhelmed with these terrible things that happen, and just like for about, I don't know, about maybe the following 6 hours, I was saying, what was I thinking? Why am I going to a new place and without making a good plan and having all the provisions around so that when I become to be demented and senile and insane, that I shall, be sure that I'm able to get into a first-rate um, care situation and have, somehow avoid all of the complications and catastrophes that happened during the last illness before death. But it's ridiculous. This is what life is one catastrophe after another, and it will be a catastrophe, or it will be unpredictable, and it will be not the type of thing that one needs to spend anxiety about. But when that anxiety came up, even while like the anxiety came in my body, and I could see it very clearly. Saying this is just something, auto-suggestion or something like that, that one wishes for some kind of security blanket. You want security, but you can't have it. You can't have it. Okay.
Yeah, so for myself, when I have a grief like 3 years back when my father passed away, he was sick, but also by accident death. Then there's something that we don't expect. So every time when I have a very great difficulty, so what I do is that I sit meditation and contemplate on the feeling of grief. I see why I have grief so much compared with if other people's father die. That is because of the attachment that many years stay together, right? And then contemplate on the Dhamma, the teaching of the Buddha, the impermanence and the label of the father. Then see the attachment, seeing the feeling, Then you see the 5 aggregates. So this is something I need to see clearly so that the grief can be, let go. Then the mind come to calmness, and then you see the anicca of the father passing away and looking at that positively. How should I grab the chance to practice for the attainment, right, in this life? So not to rebirth again. But on the other side also, seeing how should I, instead of grief, to use the time positively to make merits to share with him for his better rebirth and can come to listen to the Dhamma in his next life. Yeah, so he can release from the samsara as well. I do think about old age and getting sick because everyone does. And when we're very old and you think about, oh, maybe no one take good care of you and you might have difficulty, even like you have a lot of money, you can arrange everything. But things are not 100% warranty. You can't guarantee people will treat you good, the nurse will treat you good. You can't guarantee that. Then, so when I have this thought, then I think about, you have attachment to yourself. You want to be treated good. You are worried about getting sick and not being treated well in difficulty. And seeing that, I say, okay, you should put more time in your cultivation, in your meditation, so that you will give up this attachment to your body, to the comfort, even you are very sick and very old one day. Yeah, thank you.
Here's another. About old age. Short.
I really appreciate all these profound comments and teachings. In a simple way, I think these are all the emotions, what we classify as inflicted emotions. To practice is to accept these emotions and embrace it and be friendly with it and just watch it. It's emotions like anything else, it just passes away. You can just watch it and it will pass away and change to something else. So that kind of practice, we are practicing impermanence, right? And then also loving kindness to ourselves. Just be gentle with ourselves. Then anything that comes from the practice experience, hopefully we will just take it with ease and with peace, just like anything else, just reality as it is, nothing else.
It's like if we resist it, it persists.
In my advice is that all of the teachings that we find in the suttas related to working with the Panchupadana Kanda, the 5 aggregates of clinging, those are exactly the teachings that are so beneficial in working with afflictive emotions without getting caught up, and also working with the greedy emotions and not getting caught up in that either, by applying that analysis related to the 5 aggregates affected by clinging. Here's number 4.6, the Jara Sutta, old age. Short. Alas, is this life. You die before 100 years. Even if you live a little longer, you still die of old age. People grieve over belongings, yet there is no such thing as permanent possessions. Separation is a fact of life. When you see this, you wouldn't stay living at home. This verse is so meaningful. I've come to start translating upadana as attachment, just because it seems to cut like the difference between craving and clinging. It seems like just a degree or something like that. But craving is like this sort of instability of not being content with what you have and wanting it to be something else. It's always sort of like trying to move, never able to settle. But then attachment is too much settling, because when comes to be trying to be attached with something which, however, is not one's own belonging and is likely to be lost, likely to be taken away. And then it says here, now this is directed towards somebody who is leaving the home life to become a wandering mendicant. It says, when you see this, you wouldn't stay living at home. But I think whether or not one is choosing the form of a Buddhist bhikkhu or bhikkhuni, or whether one is living the householder life, if you take something as your home, it's like you're taking the world that you live in. If I was born, all of us were born into the kama loka, into the world of sense desire. So if we take this kama loka, this world that we were born into, and make this our home, and become attached to continued existence in this realm, then whether or not we're wearing brown robes, white robes, or our regular clothing, one is still become a householder because of being attached to a realm of existence. Whatever a person thinks of as belonging to them, that too is given up when they die. Knowing this, an astute follower of mine would not be bent on ownership. So this morning in the meditation, we heard the birds singing, and we know that the birds are impermanent, and we also know this hearing faculty is impermanent, right? Feeling the touch of the clothing, or the touch of the cool air in the morning, or the touch of the warm air right now. We know that the temperature of the chair and all the things around are impermanent, but also this very faculty of being able to have experiences through touching, also impermanent. It will disappear. So if you think that any of your faculties belong to you, they don't. Just as upon awakening, a person does not see what they encountered in a dream, so too you do not see your loved ones when they are dead and gone. You used to see and hear those folk and call them by their name. Yet their name is all that's left to tell of a person when they're gone. So, in this case, the name we know that that's the nama. When we associate having an experience of something that's right in front of us, and then perception throws up a concept about what that thing really is. Perhaps a name is given or a word is given to say that this grass is green and the sky is blue. And so those names have been built up to enable us to distinguish what we're experiencing. This is part of the whole process of the mental life of being able to have experiences and to remember our experiences. Being able to know is involved with this naming. But then when night comes, the grass is no longer green on a dark night. The sky is no longer blue on a dark night. So there's just the name exists to bring up something in memory, but it's no longer connected with the actuality. Um, um, so then this contemplation about impermanence and non-ownership can lead one to investigate, if you're inclined that way, about how people come to experience whatever they experience in this life. If you're very naive and you just think that just because I saw that it's real, just because I feel this it's real, just because I say this it's real, that those things are not just what they seem to be. Um, uh, it's all impermanent and will be gone. Those who are greedy for belongings don't give up sorrow, lamentation, and stinginess. That's why the sages, seers of sanctuary, left possessions behind and wandered. The Kema, my friend Bante Kema, Kema means protection or safety. So those seers of sanctuary were the ones who wanted to see the place of safety, the place of protection. They leave all possessions behind and wandered. And when they've given up ownership of absolutely everything, then they are safe. Nothing can be taken from them because they've released everything. For a mendicant who lives withdrawn, frequenting a secluded seat, they say it's fitting to not show themselves in a home. And when it says to show themselves, that's the atta. So don't put up a show. Don't put up a front, a signpost about the self. Don't write the advertisement for yourself and put it up. And then you're going to create this ad campaign about who I am. And then you have to live in the campaign that you created. This disillusionment with history and the stories we tell is something that's been very alive for me during the past 6 months or so. And I am really grateful that because of different causes and conditions that a certain amount of like a delusion fell away for me. And when I see that like this mind is starting up, jump up on a podium and start to make a speech about a story about, like this is the history, this is what really happened, this is who I am or something. And I can say, okay, I don't have to take that very seriously. And when I see others putting up a story I'm not concerned about it. I don't need to enter into a debate about which story is the right story, about what really happened, or what is really happening. Who's the good guy and who's the bad guy? Who's, all of those stories. They're just it's something about the way the human mind is. So in that way, don't make it a problem. But in another way, I will not make up a self and show the self in a home. The sage is independent everywhere. They don't form likes or dislikes. Lamentation and stinginess slip off them like water from a leaf. Like droplets slip from a lotus leaf, like water from a lotus flower. The sage doesn't cling to that which is seen, heard, or thought. For one who is cleansed does not conceive in terms of things seen, heard, or thought. The conceiving is the Pali word manyati, and that is like very often the Buddha is questioning his disciples, and he says, "Tanking manyati bhikkhave," what do you think, bhikkhus? And it's like, what do you think? What do you imagine? What's your concept? What is your presumption? But when you see that word manyati, it's something that is likely to be not actually true. Or it could be like partly true, but it's not the whole actuality of the truth. It's just a concept. And that conceiving is sort of like the dangerous process, just like the way that someone may fabricate a history in order to justify themselves or make themselves feel safe or something like that. The same thing, one can conceive a conception, and that creates some kind of a chimera of a delusion of some type of safety or stability. But actually there is no stability in that sense. There is no safety in that sense. For one who is cleansed does not conceive in terms of things seen, heard, or thought. They do not wish to be purified by another. They are neither passionate nor growing dispassioned. Virajati is a term that's related to viraga. So in the moments of full enlightenment, it says one knows and sees reality as it really is. Then one becomes disenchanted. That's the nibbida. And then comes viraga, called dispassion. And then comes vimutti, or freedom. I think of raga, sometimes it's translated as lust. So there's raga is called lust or passion, and viraga is dispassion, or the fading away of passion. I feel that the difference between desire, or say desire like chanda, is a kind of a karmically neutral word for a desire, that you wish to do something. You could wish for something wholesome on your path, or you could wish for something that was not helpful. And then a stronger term is tanha, which is thirst. So that's sort of like a very natural process. Like if you're a living being, the physical body needs to continuously feed and water itself, and so thirst is always coming along, always coming up, just in the course of nature. So the instability of the living human body is paralleled by the instability of the body, which tends to always be looking for something different than what exists right in this moment, for a way to make it better, more safe, more secure, or if there's something that's becoming a danger or a threat, you want to take care of that. And so that's tanha, thirst. And then this raga in the three roots of suffering. Raga is one of them. I think of that as being like an inflammation of desire. So it could be, just sort of like in the course of nature, that one is thirsty and then take a sip of a beverage. But like if one is, you suppose somebody is an alcoholic and they're trying to go sober, so they haven't had a drink in several days, and they're just craving and craving and craving and can't think of anything else, that the body is constantly in danger, takes so much willpower to resist it, and their mind is like just dominated by that desire. So that it could be like an example of an inflammation of desire. So then the opposite of that kind of inflammation is a nimbuti, to be cooled or to be quenched, which is related to nibbana. When the fuel runs out, the fire goes down, the inflammation is gone. In this case, the verse says, neither passionate nor growing dispassionate. This dispassion, I think I'm going to associate that with either a desire for annihilation, because this particular line is making it as two extremes between passion and dispassion, and you're looking for a middle way which transcends both of those extremes. So wanting to get away from something would be that virajati. Another possible translation for virajati would be to be apathetic. So one is neither inflamed with passion, nor is one become dulled down with apathy. Now, question. Yes, the sutta. This is the Sutta Nipāta, number 4.6, which is the Jara Sutta. Jara means aging. So a few minutes are left. This may be a nice time to invite your reflection on this sutta. I'm going to read here. When they refer to extinguished, I was referring to nibbana. So that which is extinguished are the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion. That which is extinguished is the the defilements or the negative habits of the mind, which constantly keep somebody creating new karma, which is perpetuating their continued existence. So all of those habits of the mind, which are orientated towards continued existence, all of those habits have subsided and stopped. All of those fires have come to be extinguished. There's another comment that what I said is exactly why they had to quit working at a nursing home. Oh dear. Um, we live in samsara, so we know there is no security. You have a time being now to build security by studying the Buddha's words. Try to understand every time when you come back, it is good for you to change from bad to good until you know the secret to escape samsara. So it's definitely true that accumulating wholesome karma is better than accumulating unwholesome karma. Even if you're having the type of virtuous life and meditation practice and reflective understanding, which is and practicing the Brahma Viharas, loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, and practice these at a deep level. If you're not able to finally let go of the last part of ego or clinging or craving, one could very well be born in the Brahma realm, in a heavenly rebirth. And I know that some people like to disparage and say it's like stupid to try to be reborn in heaven, but heaven is a pretty good place. For one who's a faithful disciple of the Buddha, you can be in heaven and you can hear the teachings of the Buddha and not have to put up with um, a lot of the bad habits of a worldling here in the realm of sense desire. So it is possible to take a heavenly birth and then from the heavenly birth proceed to Nibbana after that. So don't be scared of heaven. Do good, and if you feel like because of your beautiful mind and your wonderful practice that your life is so bright, almost like a heavenly existence, and when you go to death, you've got that peaceful, bright feeling, and you're going to go and be with the devas in heaven, and some gods or some devas are going to preach to you about the Dhamma. The Brahma, the god, the Brahma god. Frequently, he's a lay Dhamma teacher, so he preaches to the other gods about the Dhamma to help them to reach their final awakening. So, but do good. But then there is some kind of a transition that happens. That this longing for heaven would fade away, and it becomes like not interesting too much, and then you might have the longing for nibbana, the longing for that final quenching, and even that longing for nibbana, it's said, is still an impediment. It creates a restlessness. So it's like when you really want it, you can't have it. So you've got to finally stop And when you stop longing, then you may have experienced that final quenching. I welcome any other comments, and I know my life would not be complete if I don't hear from Richard. So I'm going to call on Ren first, and then maybe Richard will before the end of the hour offer us his perspective on this.
Thank you, Ayya.
Okay,
I
Ren.
Thank you, Ayya. I won't go through any sentimental things with you, but appreciations always. So instead, I'll just entertain you with another Ren question. So we're talking about how in heaven or it's there you can last many lifetimes, even though it's not the not nirvana, not something, not a goal. But and then you mentioned, and then in heaven you can hear the teaching of Buddha. So it's not a bad life. But I found something that's kind of just I don't quite connect with, was that, if a being can be in heaven for so long, but then the Buddha, not only the person was gone, but the Buddha is completely gone in nirvana. That seems kind of just contradictory, like kind of not jiving. And then, so if the Buddha is gone, where do you hear the teaching of Buddha when you're in heaven?
I think some of the gods who are also disciples of the Buddha would discuss the Dhamma with you. That's my understanding of it.
Views, but I get it. I understand.
Yes, human teachers also, devas will visit them and come down from heaven and visit them and discuss the Dhamma. So, it's kind of like being a fish out of water. You don't really know what water is while you're just swimming in it all the time. But if you have a chance to jump out of the water once in a while, then you can say, wow, there's something completely different than water. So the devas, just like the way in meditation, in the immaterial meditations or in the Brahma meditation, you experience the mind which is completely secluded from hindrances. And I say, wow, you've been swimming in a mind which is polluted by hindrances. And you come into a place that's fresh and clear and not polluted and say, wow, there's something completely different that's even possible. So it might be that the beings in the heavenly realm know something by getting out of this realm. And that could help them to understand the way to the goal in some way. Okay, Richard.
Thank you, Ayya. There's actually a sutra where it's described how after you pass away and go into the heavens, you'll meet someone there that you were students together in the Dharma, and you'll discuss the Dharma. And there's also advanced teachers here who have mastered the ability to make the mano-made body, and they go up in the heavens and they give classes. There's also beings there on that particular heavenly realm who are living there that are advanced Buddhists, and they discuss the Dharma. And there's one other one, and I think it's beings coming down from higher levels that come down, but I can't remember the fourth one off the top of my head. But anyways, there's 4 different ways in the heavens that you have opportunity to study the Dharma. Now, part of what Ren was saying is that when the Buddha dies, he's gone. This is a misunderstanding. If you go to the Vacchagotta Sutta number 72 in the Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha is discussing there with Vajja about what happens. How does a fire burn? It burns with fuel, etc. And what happens when the fuel is gone? Then the fire goes out. So he says, if someone could ask you, Vacha, when the fire before you was extinguished, to which direction did it go? To the east, to the west, the north, or the south? Being asked thus, what would you answer? That does not apply, Master Gotama. The fire burned in dependence on its fuel of grass and sticks. When that is used up, it does not get any more fuel. Being without fuel, it is reckoned as extinguished. So then the Buddha says, so too, Vacha, the Tathagata, doesn't say the Buddha, he says the Tathagata. The name Tathagata applies to the Buddha's physical body. He says that, and he's going to reiterate it here as well, you'll see as I continue on here. Has abandoned that material form, that's his body, by which one describing the Tathagata, that's the description, the physical body, might describe him. He has cut it off at the root, made it like a palm stem, done away with it, so that it is no longer subject to future arising. The Tathagata is limited from reckoning in terms of material form. So he's gone beyond material form. Vacha, he is profound, immeasurable, hard to fathom, like the ocean. The term reappear does not apply because the body's gone, it was a way of viewing him in this realm, but all those elements have dissipated, right? Does not reappear does not apply. The term both reappears, does not reappear, does not apply. The term neither reappears nor does not reappear does not apply. The Tathagata has abandoned that feeling by which one describing the Tathagata might describe him, has abandoned that perception by which one describing the Tathagata might describe him, has abandoned those formations by which one describing the Tathagata might describe him, has abandoned that, it says consciousness, I prefer cognition, by which one describing the Tathagata might describe him. He has cut it off at the root, made it like a palm stump, done away with it, so that it is no longer subject to future rising. The Tathagata is liberated from reckoning in terms of cognition, Vacha. He is profound, immeasurable, hard to fathom, like the ocean. And he just reappears the same thing again. The term reappears does not apply. The term does not reappear does not apply. The term both reappears and does not reappear does not apply. The term neither reappears nor does not reappear does not apply. So this, we're in the physical body in this realm, or there are bodies in the heavenly realm, there are bodies in the formless realm. Those are all appearances. So just because the Buddha doesn't reappear in any of those realms doesn't mean that, he no longer exists. As it says, he's infinite. You know what I mean? He's unfathomable, like the ocean. You can't, without realizing that state for yourself, you cannot grasp exactly what's being referred to there. Anyways, that's my opinion. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you so much for that, and we shall hope to be at least continue to be friends from the great distance of wherever we end up, whether I'm in New Jersey or heaven or wherever I may be. So now we've just used up our time, and this is a very good time to pay respects to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Araham Samma Sambuddha Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivadimi Savakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhamman Namasami Subhatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sangham Namami.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Ayya.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Ayya.
Thank you.
Thank you,
See
everyone.
you next time.
Safe travels.
Safe travels, yes. See